You just yawned, didn't you? Or you're about to. Maybe right now. And here's the deeply weird part. I didn't do anything. I didn't show you a yawning face, didn't play a sound, just typed the word yawn, and your brainstem decided, without consulting your conscious mind, to trigger an involuntary reflex that stretches your jaw, floods your lungs with air, and briefly makes you look like you're trying to unhinge your mouth and swallow reality. This is contagious yawning, a neural hijacking so powerful that reading about it, thinking about it, or watching someone else do it can force your body to mimic the behavior against your will. Welcome to Briefly Science, where today we're investigating why your brain contains a yawn detection system that treats other people's yawns like airborne commands.
But the equation clearly states the opposite.
That can't be right! The variables conflict here!
Wait, where did this symbol come from?
And why scientists still can't agree on what yawning actually does, or why evolution decided every vertebrate on Earth should occasionally gape at nothing for no clear reason. Let's get weird immediately. Yawning is ancient, older than mammals, older than language, civilization, consciousness itself. Fish yawn, reptiles yawn, birds yawn, even fetuses yawn in the womb, months before they have any reason to be tired or bored. Your species inherited this reflex from ancestors so distant they didn't have lungs yet. And despite thousands of years of humans noticing this behavior, science still doesn't definitively know why we do it. We've sent robots to Mars. We've sequenced the human genome. We've photographed black holes. But yawning remains magnificently mysterious.
This diagram illustrates our central hypothesis. Airborne particulates, shown in blue, enter the oral cavity and move into the respiratory system.
The oldest explanation is the obvious one. Yawning increases oxygen intake. You're tired, your breathing gets shallow, your brain needs more oxygen, so you yawn to flood your system with fresh air. Simple, logical, completely wrong. Studies from the 1980s definitively proved this. Researchers put people in oxygen-rich environments. They still yawned. Put them in oxygen-poor environments. Didn't yawn more. Gave them pure oxygen to breathe. Yawn frequency unchanged. Whatever yawning does, it's not about oxygen. So science tried again. Maybe yawning stretches your lungs and airways, keeps them flexible? Except yawning doesn't actually stretch your lungs significantly more than a deep breath would. And if it's about stretching, why is it contagious? Why does your lung stretching reflex activate when you see someone else stretch their lungs? Then came the brain cooling hypothesis. This one's actually got teeth. Your brain generates heat, constantly. Thinking, processing, existing, all of it produces thermal energy that needs to be dissipated or your neural tissue starts malfunctioning. And yawning does something mechanically interesting. It increases blood flow to your brain while simultaneously drawing cool air across the roof of your mouth and sinus cavities. The act of stretching your jaw muscles also activates circulation. You're essentially running a brief cooling cycle for your overheated processor. Studies show people yawn more when their brain temperature is elevated. More in warm rooms than cold rooms. More when they have a fever. Less when they hold cold packs to their forehead. And here's the kicker. Contagious yawning works the same way. Watching someone yawn triggers your mirror neurons. Remember those from the empathy episode? Which activate similar neural circuits in your own brain, including the circuits that monitor temperature. So, seeing someone yawn makes your brain check its own temperature, and if it's running even slightly hot, boom, contagious yawn. You're thermally resonating with other people's brains. But the brain cooling hypothesis doesn't explain everything, because yawning also correlates with state transitions. You yawn when you're waking up, when you're getting drowsy, when you're bored and your brain's about to shift attention, when you're anxious and your nervous system is recalibrating. Olympic athletes yawn right before competition. Paratroopers yawn before jumping. You're not overheated in those moments. You're transitioning between physiological states. So maybe yawning is a reset button, a way of rapidly shifting your arousal level, either up or down, by triggering a cascade of neural and physiological changes. When you yawn, you're not just moving your jaw. You're activating your hypothalamus, which controls sleep-wake cycles. You're triggering a burst of neurotransmitters. You're stretching muscles connected to your vagus nerve, which regulates basically everything from heart rate to digestion to stress response. Yawning might be your brain's all-purpose state change protocol. And if yawning helps you transition between states, contagious yawning might be a social synchronization mechanism. Here's where it gets truly strange. Not all animals experience contagious yawning. It's mostly limited to social species. Humans, obviously, but also chimpanzees, bonobos, dogs, specifically dogs observing humans, not other dogs, elephants, and possibly wolves. These are all species that live in groups and benefit from synchronized behavior. If everyone in your tribe needs to wake up at dawn or settle down for sleep at dusk, having a contagious signal that triggers state changes would be incredibly useful. You yawn. I see you yawn. My brain automatically prepares for the same state transition you're undergoing. We synchronize without needing to consciously coordinate. It's biological scheduling software running on mirror neurons and empathy circuits. And the contagion spreads through multiple channels. Visual is the strongest. Just seeing a yawn triggers about half of people to yawn within a few minutes. But audio works too. Just hearing someone yawn can set you off. Even reading the word yawn or thinking about yawning activates the same networks. Your brain is so primed to detect and mimic yawns that it responds to the abstract concept of yawning almost as strongly as to the actual sensory input. This is your mirror neuron system on overdrive. You're not consciously deciding to empathize with the yawner. Your ventromedial prefrontal cortex, the region involved in self-awareness and social cognition, automatically activates when you observe yawning, cross-references it with your own internal state, and if conditions are right, forces you to yawn. You've been neurologically infected by someone else's reflex. But here's where it gets darker. Not everyone experiences contagious yawning equally. Psychopaths show significantly reduced susceptibility. People with autism spectrum disorder often don't catch yawns at all. Young children under 4 or 5 don't really catch yawns yet. Their mirror systems and empathy circuits haven't fully developed. And this reveals something unsettling. Contagious yawning isn't just a quirky reflex. It's a measure of your capacity for unconscious empathy. When you catch someone's yawn, you're demonstrating that your brain automatically simulates their internal state. You're running their physiology as background software. You're empathizing below the level of conscious awareness. And people who struggle with empathy, for neurological reasons, not moral ones, their brains just don't run those simulations as readily. You can diagnose empathy deficits by measuring yawn contagion. That's wild. There's also individual variation among neurotypical people. Some folks are yawn catchers. They see one yawn and immediately spiral into a yawning fit. Others are weirdly resistant. And the difference seems to correlate with empathy scores on psychological tests. The more empathetic you are, the more likely you catch yawns. Your mirror system is so active, so primed to simulate others' experiences, that it will forcibly hijack your respiratory system just because someone nearby briefly gaped. And animals are weird about this. Dogs catch yawns from humans they're bonded with, but not from strangers. They're not just mimicking the behavior, they're selectively mirroring people they have emotional connections to. Chimpanzees catch yawns more readily from their own social group than from unfamiliar chimps. Even in non-human species, contagious yawning seems tied to social bonds and empathy, not just visual mimicry. You only catch yawns from creatures you care about. But let's talk about what happens in your brain during a yawn. because it's genuinely bizarre. Your yawn reflex is controlled by your brainstem, the ancient automatic part that keeps you breathing and your heart beating. Specifically, a region called the paraventricular nucleus of your hypothalamus. When this cluster of neurons activates, it triggers a cascade. Your jaw muscles extend to maximum stretch, your diaphragm contracts sharply, your heart rate briefly spikes, and you inhale deeply while your eyes often close or water. The whole sequence takes about 6 seconds. You can't speed it up. You can't really stop it once it starts. Try interrupting a yawn midway and you'll just feel unsatisfied, like you need to finish the job. Your brainstem has initiated a program and it's going to run to completion, whether your conscious mind approves or not. And yawning releases neurochemicals. During a yawn, your brain experiences a brief surge of dopamine, your motivation and reward chemical, possibly serotonin. Definitely activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which governs rest and relaxation. You're not just cooling your brain or stretching your jaw. You're triggering a complex neurochemical state shift that affects your alertness, mood, and physiological arousal. Yawning is a drug your brainstem administers to itself. There's also something called excessive yawning, which is actually a medical symptom. People yawn constantly, dozens of times per hour, and it indicates something's wrong. Brain temperature regulation problems, vagus nerve dysfunction, certain medications, sometimes even as a precursor to migraines or seizures. Your yawn frequency isn't just random. It's feedback about your neurological state. And when the system malfunctions, you get stuck in yawning loops that feel impossible to escape. But for most people, yawning just happens. You're sitting there, maybe a little warm, maybe transitioning between tasks. Maybe you just saw someone else yawn, and your brainstem quietly decides it's yawn time, activates the program, and forces your body through a ritual that's been running continuously in your evolutionary lineage for hundreds of millions of years. Same basic reflex, same jaw stretch, same deep inhale. Reptiles did it. Your mammalian ancestors did it. You do it. Your descendants will do it. An unbroken chain of creatures briefly gaping at the universe for reasons science still can't fully explain. And maybe that's okay. Maybe yawning doesn't need a single clean explanation. Maybe it's a multi-tool, brain cooling, state transition, social synchronization, neurotransmitter release, muscle stretching, all of the above, depending on context. Evolution doesn't design for elegance. It designs for good enough to not get you eliminated from the gene pool. Yawning worked. It stuck around. And now you're stuck with a reflex that hijacks your face dozens of times per day, that can be triggered by other people's reflexes, that serves multiple overlapping functions no single study can fully capture. You're a biological organism running ancient subroutines on modern hardware. And yawning is maybe the purest example of this. A behavior so old it predates your entire taxonomic class. So automatic you can't consciously control it.
The data clearly shows it belongs on the left!
Nonsense! It's glowing purple! It defies the schematic!
We can't ignore the blueprints, it simply doesn't fit the model!
So contagious it spreads through abstract representation, and so poorly understood that neuroscience still argues about its basic function. But you just yawned again, didn't you? While watching this. Maybe more than once. Your mirror neurons activated. Your hypothalamus checked your brain temperature. Your brainstem decided conditions were right for a state transition, and you briefly joined the unbroken chain of yawning creatures stretching back to the Devonian period. All of you gaping at nothing, cooling your processors, synchronizing with your tribes, or just yawning because that's what vertebrates do sometimes. And if you want to keep your brainstem informed while learning why your body does these wonderfully inexplicable things,
We did it! Now it is your turn to subscribe. It is the logical next step for human flourishing.
maybe subscribe. Evolution favors organisms that understand their own involuntary behaviors. Don't let your hypothalamus run unchecked thermal cycles. Stay curious. Stay skeptical of reflexes you can't control. And remember, every time you catch someone's yawn, you're proving your mirror neurons work. You're demonstrating unconscious empathy. You're participating in a social synchronization protocol that evolution embedded in your brainstem before consciousness was even an option. See you in the next one. Try not to yawn.